Hello, everyone. This is Day Sanchez from Two Minds, and today I have a beautiful guest. I am so excited to have Ashana joining me today for a beautiful conversation about the power of sound healing and the benefits of sound healing. We are going to be talking about some really powerful things here, and this is a really this topic is really close to my heart because of all the transformation and the profound changes that I have experienced since the first moment that sound healing showed up in my life. And even more so when I started to share sound medicine with children and with others. That was really life changing for me and it was really powerful. So I'm really excited to talk about these things, this fascinating topic with Ashana. And welcome, Ashana. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so, Ashana, you're joining us from where? Is it Phoenix?
Well, my husband and I currently live in Phoenix, but
Oh,
originally I'm from New York City.
yes. And I am in New York City right now. And so Ashana, she's a renowned crystal ball master. She's a recording artist. She travels around the world offering concerts and workshops on sound healing. She's doing some amazing work on the area of sound healing. So I couldn't be more excited to have Ashana here with me today. So, Ashana, I wanted to just maybe start by having you share a little bit about your journey with sound healing and how was it that sound healing showed up in your life. And I know that there's a really cool story about the first time that a crystal ball showed up in your home. And so I wanted to maybe hear a little bit more about that and learn how was it that sound healing showed up in your life and the changes that you have experienced because of it, if any.
Well, I didn't start out to be a sound healer by a long shot. I My passion evolved out of music, and that's still my primary roadmap today.
Mhm.
Is my relationship with music and sound. Sound healing came. Um, I was a very unwilling participant in sound healing, to be quite honest with
Wow.
you. My my husband kept trying. The first time we met, it was oh God, it was 10, 11 years ago. Um, he kept insisting I was a sound healer, and I kept insisting that he was absolutely incorrect, that I was a musician first and foremost, because I hadn't embraced that piece of it inside of myself. That's taken me quite a while in my own personal evolution. But in retrospect, I've been a musician for about 55 years now. And in retrospect, the healing sound has been happening all along. But I always called it and related it to being musical and to being a musician. I was thinking about that while I was getting ready to talk to you, to speak with you today, about why is it now that sound healing has
Mhm.
become such a big deal and so necessary. I was really blessed to spend 11 years teaching early childhood music to parents of young children and their families in a family program, which is very popular in the United States, called Music Together. And I was a Music
Mhm.
Together teacher and facilitator for that program. And one of the reasons that came about, that particular program came about, was because as a culture, especially in Western
Mhm.
culture, we have stopped coming together as communities to make sound and make music. And there has been a tremendous um, loss in that. When you look back historically, in every single culture, we have had the coming together in acknowledging the cycles and the phases of nature and of the earth. And we did that in song, we did that in chanting, or for some cultures, mantras.
Mhm.
We did that in prayer. We did that in celebrations. We did that in rituals. And I was thinking about this morning how rituals now are going to a football game,
Mhm.
how ritual singing now is almost exclusively limited to gathering together uh, when somebody's birthday and singing them happy birthday. And everybody's really uncomfortable with it for the most part when you go to those parties. And that happens because people are actually uncomfortable singing
Mhm.
with each other now. So we have, in my opinion, in my experience, we have devolved culturally and removed music and sounding from our collective community experiences. And sound healing in the last 20 years, and especially in the last 3 to 5 years, is now trending the same way that yoga was trending about a decade ago. Well, sound healing is doing the same thing. And we now have in our communities, we have sound baths that are available at different yoga studios or healing spaces. We have crystal bowls and we have gongs. We have evenings of ambient music where people can just lie down and relax. If you think about it, this is our way of looking for and returning to a
Mhm.
way of experiences of collective healing in community. And that is what sound healing, that's the space, it's the void that sound healing is now providing, because we have lost it. We have lost the ability to come together as a group and celebrate the passage of teenagers into adulthood. We, other than hymn singing at local churches, which is relegated to a few minutes on a Sunday or a weeknight evening, we don't, as families, we don't play music together for the most part. Um, we have literally a generation, possibly even 2 generations of adults that no longer play instruments or sing with their children. And when I say this, it's very emotional to me,
Mhm.
because my family, I mean, I'm in an older generation, considered an older generation now, and my family, that's what we did. We sang. My dad played guitar and he played accordion, and my mom and my sisters, we all sang in the choir. And I was learned to play piano and learned to play guitar when I was 5 years old, and we would get together. And when we were driving in the car, we were singing. So there was this element of music and sound. And why do you need that? That was the question that you asked me. Why is this so important?
Mhm.
One of the reasons specifically for just generalized music making and celebration is that it is joyful. It changes the emotional body. It helps to balance us out. It gives us a vehicle to express emotionally on some level the feelings that are pent up. Now what's happening in sound healing is that we're actually looking at specific sounds, specific kinds of sounds that have definitive physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual effects upon the health and well-being of those people that are receiving or in the environment of those sounds. And we're taking sound seriously as a healing modality, probably for the first time.
Right.
So that was probably a really long answer to your
No, this
question.
is beautiful. And I love that you touched upon so many things in that answer. And what's coming through me right now when you're sharing these things is that these are such powerful ancient traditions and ancient practices that
Yes.
we lost touch with these things. And music is really universal. It's when you were sharing these things about, coming together as a family. And I think about when I'm working with a child, for example, a child who has trouble communicating with words, or in other ways. It's just so crazy, and it's incredible how they can connect with you through sound and through music.
Yeah.
It's just so powerful.
Yes.
And it's almost like our ancestors left footprints for us to follow,
Yeah.
and we're finally following that. And the good thing is that research is emerging, and maybe that's why people are paying more attention to it now, and it's becoming more popular. But this has been going on for so many years. And
Thousands and
yes,
thousands and thousands of years.
yes, yes, drumming and all these
Exactly. Drumming,
practices.
flute playing,
Mhm.
singing, chanting.
Yes,
If you look at every single culture,
yes.
and they all had this, the Scots. My mom was Scottish, and
Hmm.
is Scottish. She's part Scottish and part German in her background. But Scots, when they worked together, they had what they called woking songs, and they would take fabric, and the women would gather together at a table, and in order to soften and prepare the fabric for turning it into new things, they would sit together and they would have songs that they would sing and chant.
Wow.
African American slaves, that when they first came to this country, this is how they tolerated
Mm,
and worked together in community, is they sang and chanted the songs similar in sound to
mhm.
what they had sung and chanted, their ancestors had sung and chanted.
Right.
They brought that music
Mhm.
to the United States, and
Yes.
that had a huge influence on both popular and sacred music in our country.
Mhm.
um, so if you look at East, you look at the country India, which has one of the oldest traditions of mantra, sacred and spiritual mantra and chanting. That tradition is somewhere between 1,500 and 7,000 years old, where sacred sound literally carries the essential components of creation of the universe. In the Sanskrit uh, uh, alphabet, in each sound of Sanskrit is considered holy, and that by invoking that sound, you literally are connecting directly with the essence sound of creation, of that aspect of creation.
Mhm.
We don't have that in our language in
Right.
English. And we don't have that really in most of the languages that are spoken today. Not the 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 depth of awareness
Mhm.
that speech itself is a sacred act,
Right.
right?
Just the word, just
Just
speaking.
the essence of the
Yes.
sound inside of the word
Mhm. Mhm.
is sacred.
Yes.
And that the word itself is the thing or the object that we are speaking about, that they are one and the same. We
Yeah.
don't have that in English because our language is so much more compartmentalized and it's so much more left brain oriented that
Yes.
we have lost that. And what music does and sound does is it brings in a more whole, um, developmentally for our children and both for ourselves as adults. It actually opens the spaces in our neural pathways where the right and left brain can come together and begin to communicate instead of being so split. I mean, as
Mhm.
Westerners, we become almost split off from our intuition, split off
Right.
from our emotional being. And we need to integrate that in wholeness. Music and sound is one of the most powerful modalities we can use to bring our neural pathways, our nervous system, into a sense of holistic wholeness, health, and
Mhm.
healing.
In harmony, right?
Essentially, we're bringing our bodies back in tune. We're bringing our nervous system, we're bringing our bodies, we're bringing our metabolic system back into tune. You know,
Right.
the biologist, Dr. Candace Pert, talked about this. I had the quote, and I'm sorry I don't have it
It's
available,
okay.
but I can send it to you. And she said basically that the hormones and the metabolic functions on the cellular level, that when we are in a state of optimum health and wholeness, they literally are humming together in harmony.
Mm.
And when we are ill, hormones and our metabolic functions are in disharmony. We're literally, on a cellular level, we are out of tune.
Right. This it makes me think of cymatics and how, for anyone who's watching and is not familiar with these videos, where they put some vibrating plates and then they put some salt on it or some.
There's a membrane there's a rubber membrane
Mm-hmm,
that is
mm-hmm.
resting over a speaker, and
Yes.
then the sound is pumped through the speaker on the other
Mm-hmm.
side with a very, very fine grain of sand on the top.
Yes.
And when the sound comes through, you can actually see a visual geometric
Mm-hmm.
representation of the
Mm-hmm.
sound. And it's extraordinary. And this is the
Yes.
same kind of work that Dr. Masaru Emoto did with
Mm-hmm.
water,
Water. Mm-hmm.
and intention and emotion, and the impact of intention and emotion upon
Right.
the cellular structure of water. So
Yes. So going back to that, can you speak a little bit about how is it that sound, and especially crystal balls and sound balls, can bring some harmony into our bodies and how they can affect our nervous system, and just what are some of the benefits of using sound healing and sound medicine?
well, let's just take one little step back, and let's talk about the nervous system, the impact of
Mm-hmm.
sound on the nervous system first. So when we hear, our auditory system, when we hear a sound, the vibrations of that sound, literally, the first thing it does is it hits our eardrum. And then those vibrations are transmitted into the cochlea, which is a tube that's filled with liquid, and they're carried on that liquid, and they impact the cilia, which are the little tiny fibers in the inner ear, and all the cilia are like dancing, like little like seaweed, in the thing, and they're affected and they're impacted by the sonic vibrations that are being transmitted through the eardrum. Those vibrations then are carried through the auditory nerves directly into the brain. And sound immediately, the brain categorizes what that sound is based on its experience. Is this a good sound? Is this a healing sound? Is this a dangerous sound? And so the brain categorizes that and then sends that sound throughout the entire nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately, as soon as you hear the sound, it's literally goes right up into the brain, and the brain looks at it and sends it through the entire nervous system, and it impacts us on the cellular level. So our nervous system is what regulates our heart, our blood, the circulation of the fluids in our body. It regulates our emotional responses to things. It regulates our mental responses to things, and on a certain level, it also regulates our spiritual responses to things, and has a huge impact on our breathing and respiratory system.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have, you're talking about crystal singing bowls and sound bowls like the Tibetan bowls or crystal bowls. Crystal bowls are really incredibly unique in and of themselves because they are made of pure gem silica, which is pure quartz, which has been, at least the bowls that I use, that quartz has been infused or overlaid with precious gemstones, minerals, and metals. The fluids in our body, and our body is made up of somewhere between 70 and 80% water. And water is the modality that carries sound frequencies the furthest and the fastest. Some people might think that, oh, it's air. It's no, that's not true. If the ability of air to transmit sonic sound waves can be carried approximately 5 miles. But think about the oceans and the whales and the dolphins and the fish underneath the ocean. Sound can travel up to 225 miles through water. So our bodies are made up of 70 to 80% water. So when we take a sound like a crystal bowl, which when you were talking about cymatics, for example, the sound of a crystal bowl that's made when a crystal bowl is played is the geometric, the sacred geometry for what we call oneness. It's a circle within the circle, and you might be familiar with that symbol, which is the same symbol as you would see in Zen. It's called still point. Still point. And some would often see this or equate this symbol with God or the Supreme. Okay, so imagine that sound, that sonic signature, is traveling through your entire body and impacting on the cellular level every single cell and atom in your body down to the DNA. That's what happens when you play a crystal ball. And not only that, it impacts the mental body and the emotional body and our connection with the spiritual. So let's look at some of what the benefits are of what that will look like in a let's just say a sound bath, or if you're being exposed to sound with a crystal bowl, with crystal bowls. First of all, your respiration rate will slow down. Your breathing will become calm and still, more still and steady. Once the respiration is affected, then the circulatory system is affected as well. The heart rate begins to slow down. Your blood pressure begins to, if you're experiencing spikes in blood pressure, the blood pressure will become more and more calm. The body now is affected by the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Everything just begins to become quiet. As your breath rate, as your respiration rate slows down and your heart rate slows down, your mind begins to slow down. All of that constant the chatter that goes on in our brains all the time, it just goes. And one amazing thing, usually, depending on the person, right, because we have to speak in general terms,
Yes.
but one amazing thing starts to happen as all of this begins. You begin to relax. So chronic tension starts to dissolve or ease. We have chronic pain in people's bodies, often shifts, and there can be dramatic shifts in chronic pain during exposure to crystal bowls and crystal sound. I've had many experiences with clients or people who I've come to my concerts or come to my events where there's been some major release in pain that has happened as a result of being exposed to the sounds or the music that's been played. We've had some really dramatic stories about that. People coming in wheelchairs and leaving without them. I'm not sure. I can't speak to that as to how long it held.
Right.
People passing blockages in the body later on in the evening or the following day. People coming into a place where, when you're in that place of going deep peace, there is an ability to open to the connection that one has with source, essence, energy. So you can call that soul energy, you can call that connection to divine spirit, whatever it is you want to call that, um, there is an opportunity to move beyond the habituated mind and go outside of those parameters,
Mm-hmm.
more what we are now calling the quantum field, more into that space of infinite possibilities. So when people come to an event or a sound bath and they find that place of relaxation and the mind and the emotions begin to calm down, several things can happen there. The intuition begins to open up, creativity begins to expand, um, problem solving. If there's a challenge or a problem that has been held tight in the emotional and the mental body, there's an opening there. There can be some relaxation where you can see things from a new perspective. Now, all of this, all of this impacts our health because as we know that the number one cause of illness is stress. That is there. I believe the statistics are somewhere between 90 and 95% of all illnesses
Mm-hmm.
are stress related. So when we are talking about sound and vibrational healing, one of the key components of why it is so effective is because it takes the body out of fight or flight and reduces the level of stress so that new possibilities can emerge and the body can move into a state where it can heal itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for sharing that. That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like when we let our body do what is it's natural for our body to heal, and so
Mm-hmm.
we can quiet that monkey mind and we can quiet all the thoughts and the
Mm-hmm.
negative emotions. We start to connect more and more with that, with our true nature and what we really are. And so it
Yeah.
sounds like sound healing really helped us with that and with clearing out those layers and layers of noise and conditioning and
Mm-hmm.
inviting us to really connect with ourselves. So this is why sound sound healing and sound medicine is so powerful for me, and why I wanted to share this with all these families and anybody who's watching. So I really appreciate everything that you have shared, Ashana. This is really, really beautiful, and I know I wish I could talk for hours about this. This is such a beautiful subject to talk about. Um, and when is there anything else that you will, before we end, is there anything else that you would like to share with any families or anybody who might be watching and who they don't know much about sound healing? What will be one thing that you will want them to know about sound healing?
Well, for families with young children,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, regardless of your spiritual or religious background, um, sing to your children. Sing with your children, sing to your children, um, play music, get out the pots and pans, get out the drums, get out, uh, get out music making and dancing. It will bring more joy into your life and into the life of your family. It will elevate the emotions. And if you
Yes.
want to bring in elements of sound healing, there are amazing and beautiful recordings out. I mean, I certainly have
Yes.
recordings out that you can absolutely share. Many preschool teachers and um, children, parents of young children, have used my music with their young children uh, to quiet them down and come into a place of quietness and peace. In fact, the kids would call me the bell lady.
The bell lady, I love it.
The bell lady. So you can certainly use that music, but um, more importantly, it's so, I just so encourage you as parents to bring sound into your lives in whatever way works best for you and your families. And don't be afraid of your own voice and the sound of your own
Yes.
voice. There's too many of us as adults have stopped making sounds and stopped singing. And don't be afraid. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. It doesn't matter whether it's in tune or out of tune. Just get out there and sing. Your children are depending on you to
Mhm.
model for them what it is to be a vessel of sound. And the greatest healer, in some ways, is the sound of your own voice. So I encourage you to bring that gift to your children.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. Yes, definitely anything that has to do with sharing our own voice and our own sounds, that's really powerful. And I can tell, I can talk for experience how powerful that has been for me. Just releasing my voice and sharing my voice, that can be really, really powerful. And everything that you have shared today, thank you so much, Ashana.
You're
And
welcome.
how can families find you? How can they know about your recordings and the sound healing that you share? How can they learn more about you?
Well, you can visit my website, which is soundofashana.com. And maybe you could put that in the
Yes,
link
I'll
for
put that in the
everybody.
links. Yes.
Soundofashana.com. And we have a number of recordings coming out this year. There's many recordings already in the catalog. You can listen to them and see them all on the web. Or you can come visit us on Instagram or on Facebook at, again, that Sound of Ashana. You can hang out on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. It's got lots of videos and music. There's all kinds of ways. So
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Ashana. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and that you continue to bring more magic into the lives of people through sound healing. So,
thank you so much.
thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you for watching.